To Minneapolis now, and remember when Democrat Mayor Jacob Frey dropped to his knees and wept at the coffin of George Floyd as BLM rioters tore apart his city? Well, even that wasn't enough to save him, because the Minnesota Democratic Party has now endorsed Omar Fatah for Minneapolis mayor. The Somali-American state senator is American-born, but his focus is almost entirely on the Somali community.
Right now, we're blessed to have 3 Somali elected officials at the Capitol. Me, Sister Holden Hassan, who's in the State House, and Brother Mahmoud Noor. And we work very closely together, and we carry each other's bills.
And yes, Omar was born and bred in the US, but he refers to Somalia as home.
I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home, and I ask for your support. There's always been a link between our community here as well as back home, and I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us.
Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, first New York and now Minneapolis. We've got 2 socialists here who are front runners to be mayors of major cities. Is this the future of the Democrats?
Sadly, I think it is, and for these great cities all across America and all around the world. New York, as you mentioned, London, Rotterdam, Calgary, and on the list goes. I think there are 2 important lessons here for those willing to learn them. One is the downstream effects of immigration and the myth of multiculturalism, the myth of the melting pot, the myth of what they call the magic dirt theory, that these countries have magical dirt and you can import vast quantities of people from very different countries, very different cultures, very different loyalties, plop them on the dirt, and somehow they magically assimilate. Doesn't happen. When there's critical mass of them, they will be more loyal to their ethnic enclaves, as you see here, and they're not representative of the vast majority of the populations that they're representing. The second, I think, is don't pander, because Jacob Frey, the incumbent mayor who's now being challenged, the election isn't until November, as you mentioned, he cried at the coffin. He was planning a trip to Somalia to try and forge ties, given that 10% of the city's population is now Somali. And Jacob Frey, where has that gotten you? Not very far.
Not very far at all. And the demographic changes there are obvious. Minnesota is home to the largest Somali population in the US. What's been the impact of that? Because we've seen that with other elected politicians. It's only 10%, you said, of the population, but it seems to be having a fairly dramatic impact.
Because I think it's at critical mass. So it's like 6% of London, for instance, is similar to the Muslim majority group. But when there's enough critical mass of them, they can really band together and outvote people maybe who are not as organized. We don't have mandatory voting in the US. So if you turn out the vote in these communities and have messaging that resonates to them and their specific interests, that can happen. It's the land of Ilhan Omar, the infamous congresswoman, also from Somalia as well. So she's a case in point, and now at the local mayoral level, we might very well see the same thing.
Now, played some of Hunter Biden's commentary about George Clooney, Team Obama, cracker cocaine. There was a wide-ranging interview he did. It was a wild ride. But he also had this to say recently about Nancy Pelosi and Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra.
It clearly made a decision. And when I say they, I mean the speaker. And, you know, I heard Alexandra Pelosi say something, call my like, put your big girl pants on to my mom or something. And I kind of feel like saying, who the do you think you are? I would never speak about your mom that way. Yeah. I would never speak about your father that way. I would never insult your parents that way.
Kosha, a lot of bad blood there, and we're learning just who was behind Joe Biden being knifed, being pushed out of running for re-election. And as we suspected, Nancy Pelosi had a bit to do with it.
100%. And it's interesting because you don't see it in Democrat circles. They really are very good at putting up a united front, unlike the Republicans, who tend to be this circular firing squad often. So when you see these cracks and just everything that happened in those last 100 days, it is interesting. It was widely reported at the time that Jill Biden was very hurt by Pelosi specifically, and she had this phrase that we were friends for 50 years. I was very disappointed by it, that got picked up in various press outlets. And I think Hunter is just putting more color onto that. It was Pelosi, maybe Chuck Schumer, Obama, Clinton, possibly in the background. But, you know, Pelosi remains a power player, and when it looked like they might lose to Trump, which they went on to do anyway, the knives indeed came out.
They did. What a fascinating time, and how time flies, because it's now been a year since Kamala Harris began her campaign to be president, and she bizarrely celebrated this milestone, her failure, by posting this. She wrote, "1 year ago today, I began my campaign for President of the United States. Over the 107 days of our race, I had the opportunity and honour to travel our nation and meet with Americans, blah, 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 blah." And she goes on about whether you are attending a protest, calling your representatives, or building community, I want to say thank you. We are in this fight together. Kosha, she still obviously doesn't get it. She didn't have a single primary vote. She was installed into the role. She squandered $1.5 billion in around 15 weeks to lose every swing state, to lose the popular vote and lose the Electoral College in a landslide.
And yet, I think she's a sign of our times and this whole concept of failing upwards.
Yeah.
That once you're in the club and you get to a certain level, there's nowhere else to go but up. I can see it now, a book deal, like 107 days.
Netflix special.
How I did it, Netflix special, speaking circuit. She's already repped by CAA, the preeminent talent agency.
Well, she was in Australia not a couple of months ago
No, at the real
at a
estate.
real estate conference. How bizarre.
I know, I think that was her warm-up for bigger things. But, you know, she's going to make the rounds. I don't think she's going to be remembered in the history books, but for now, at least, she's going to monetize her short burst of fame, and she came precariously close to the nuclear codes, but thankfully did not get them.